From deep in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast. Brought to you by Texas Fishing Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, Dustin Warncke, associate publisher here at Texas Fishing Game, and man, am I excited that you are a part of our show today. I'm so excited to have you listening. Thank you so much for telling a friend. Thank you so much for your 5-star rating. Thank you so much as well for spreading the old good news of this podcast and telling everybody about it, and for liking what we have and checking out fishgame.com and everything else that we have going on at Texas Fishing Game. So excited to have the chance to get back with you and doing a show that I've been wanting to do for a while. I've not been able to do this in a long time because we've had all kinds of other stuff come up for the podcast and all kinds of other things that we wanted to talk about, but haven't talked about bow fishing in a while. I don't know, bow fishing may not be the first thing on your list if you're an outdoorsman, but I'm hoping this show will help pique your interest in a little bit more because it is a really great pastime in freshwater or saltwater. It's a social sport. It brings people together. It's family in the outdoors. It is just so vitally important to the ecosystem and everything else, and just a great challenging sport to get outdoors and to shoot some fish. So we're going to have my guest Marty McIntyre, GARQUEST Bowfishing Guide and owner of that guide business, and just an incredible guy. I've had him on. He's been a good friend of mine for the last, I guess it's been 8 years now. I've met him in 2011 and it's 2019, so I guess that's about 8 years. And I met him off of, and I'll tell this story in the podcast, but I met him off of a bow fishing trip that I won that he gave away to one of the 3D clubs that I'm a part of, and I just really have loved working for him ever since. Do his website, do some of his marketing stuff, and just really get out there and get him some traction. So these podcasts are good. I always have him on as my resident bow fishing guide because he is just such a wealth of knowledge. He has bow fished a lot of the United States, a lot of different states. He holds state records and lake records currently in a lot of different lakes for bow fishing and that class of fishing, and it does rivers, streams, lakes. Uses GoPro, uses a professional, regular camcorder camera to film a lot of his stuff. I mean, there's just a lot of great videos that I've got at GARQUEST.com for your listening and watching pleasure that you can check out that I've done for him over the years, and it's just been a blast getting to know this stuff. And I just got addicted to bow fishing because it is just such a great sport to practice archery, to get out there and enjoy things, to help the ecosystem out, and there's just a lot of benefits to it, and we'll talk about that in this show. So before I forget that, I'm going to put some stuff in the show notes. Obviously, the events that I talked about in the last podcast are coming up in June. We're in June when this is releasing, and I just wanted to put some stuff out there. I'll put everything in the show notes. The Texas Air Gun Show, you've got the backcountry hunters and anglers events that are coming up. I'll put those in the show notes again. My buddy Jeremy that I had on last week, or 2 weeks ago, last podcast was a really good guest, and I've got something that's coming up with him on the same day that I've got the Air Gun Show. So lots of fun things happening in the outdoors. There's tournaments. There's all kinds of different things that are going on right now. If you check out our website at fishgame.com and sign up for our newsletter, it is free, and you can check out all that stuff and have a lot of fun with your summertime activities with some of the things that we're promoting at fishgame.com. And we're also doing this is pertinent because it's relevant because it is a fishing episode, even if it's fishing with a bow. Power Pole is doing a program right now with us called Fishing Strategies You Can Trust. Power Pole's slogan for this program is We Build Trust, and it is all about the service that Power Pole provides. And I highly recommend that you check out this digital special program. I've authored 2 or 3 articles. I can't remember which ones I've authored, but it's at least 2 articles that are there about customer service and about kayak fishing. And then I think there was one more that I did. It's been a while since I wrote those, so I can't remember right offhand. But anyway, you can check that out at fishgame.com. If you look at the slider that's at the top of our page, you'll see the current issue go back and forth with different opportunities for you to click on and read the current digital issue. And then you can also check out the digital program. It is free, and the content in there is free, and there's a lot of really good, rich stuff for you to help you with your freshwater fishing, saltwater fishing, flipping, casting, whatever. There's just a lot of different information there for you to consume, and we're doing email blasts for them this month and last month for promoting the content that's in those. So anyway, lots and lots of great content there for you, besides our regular fishgame.com blog and our newsletter content. So without further ado, let's get into this podcast with Marty McIntyre from GARQUEST. Here we go. Joining me on the phone, Mr. Marty McIntyre from GARQUEST Bowfishing. How are you doing today, Marty?
I am doing well. Survived the weekend.
All right. That's right. What have you been up to lately, buddy?
Well, Memorial weekend kept me pretty busy. We were fishing every night of that one and trying to stay out of the crowd.
Yeah. No, that's good. So a lot of boat traffic on Memorial Day weekend, I'm sure, right?
Oh, yes.
Pleasure boaters and that kind of stuff. What lakes were you fishing?
Right. I fished Belton.
Okay.
In fact, I fished Belton all weekend. That was the weekend. That was a lake I stayed on.
Okay, cool. I was just curious.
Close to home.
So, and you've moved to your physical house location now, but you basically still fish Belton and Stillhouse pretty regular, right?
Right. Belton and Stillhouse are still my home lakes.
Okay,
yeah.
And that's
I just moved around the other side of Temple.
The north part. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And the funny thing is, I was going to bring this up because you and I haven't talked about this in a while. You fish Stillhouse Hollow in Central Texas and Belton, and you fish Lake Belton, in Belton proper. It's like two different lakes in a lot of ways, even though they're darn near adjoining each other. Because your fish in Belton are like for the advanced and intermediate, and your fish in Stillhouse are like, they're a lot slower, a lot more lethargic. Am I right?
Stillhouse is a whole lot clearer.
Okay,
so
that's what I was going.
Stillhouse, yeah. when you see the fish, they're a lot deeper than you will see them in Belton.
Okay.
And they're 10 or 12 miles. I don't think they're 12 miles, probably 7 or 8 miles apart.
Yeah.
My other where I lived before, I lived right between the two of them, so I could split and go either way.
Right.
Now I live right above Belton, so Belton's my closer lake. I did fish Stillhouse last week, and we saw some really, really big fish. In fact, I think we're saying it was about 70-pound grassy we saw.
Grass carp, wow.
But you see them, and if you don't get on them right away, they're gone.
They're gone. Yeah, they're pretty smart fish. Whoa, that would have been a hoss of a grass carp, because as long as they are, to get them that fat, that's really good.
But Stillhouse is, if you have any wind, 15 miles an hour or more, you don't want to be on Stillhouse because there's not a whole lot of protection over there.
And not a lot of cover, not a lot of shelter, not a lot of protection. Yeah, like you were saying. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, with the water as high as it is, there's a whole lot of water to fish.
Right.
In fact, one of the islands, it's probably less than half the size it usually is.
Oh, goodness.
And we were fishing all over the top of it and doing pretty good. We were back up into places I had never been fishing before. We're up in the off roads that go around that lake that are normally way out of the water.
Okay. I was just curious. That's really cool. Because that's a neat thing about when we have a lot of weather, related stuff like the rain that we've had recently, like we were talking about before we started recording, since October, we've been getting a lot of rain here in Texas. And, you just have those kind of experiences with the water rising and new water to fish, because we typically bow fish the shallows for carp, buffalo, gar, and that kind of stuff.
Correct. If we can get out of the debris, and, we were fishing. In fact, I was relating rabbit hunting to the last couple bow fishing trips I've been, because the buffalo were bouncing out of the bushes. They were down underneath the bushes in the fence lines, and they were just flying out of the fence lines.
That's crazy.
It was pretty cool.
That's really cool. So how did that look like? Like fish are just jumping out of the water?
Yeah, well, they were coming out from under the bushes. We wouldn't see them, and then dart out from under the bushes and we were having to shoot them on the run.
Right.
It was just as if, we were walking a fence line.
Yeah.
Although we were over the top of it, they were blowing out of it. And the water was so clear you could see them with no issues.
Oh, my goodness. I've got to get out and go with you again, man. It's been too long. But
it has been a while.
It has been a while. But I just, the thing is, Marty, as you know, you got me addicted to the sport of bow fishing. And there's two things that stick out to me about the sport, because I know a lot of folks don't bow fish, or a lot of people are learning how to, and a lot of people have interest in it. But the main thing is it's a great sport as far as, a challenge. And it's also a very... it's a very entertaining sport and a social sport, kind of like dove hunting is, where you sit around and just, you can talk, you can play music, that kind of stuff. You can't do that on a lot of sporting outings that we do.
Absolutely. And you're right there next to each other. You're not, you're not 25 feet away. You're within arm's length away from each other, just carrying on a conversation. And then all of a sudden a big fish interrupts your conversation and you go to flinging arrows.
And Marty goes, "Oh, big fish, right there, right there."
That's exactly the way it goes. Yeah.
That's right. And but that's the thing I've always enjoyed about your boat, because it's always laid back. It's always cool. I've been fishing with you since 2011 when I got kind of addicted to the sport. And the thing is that also a lot of people, there are a lot of rod and reel fishermen out there that are kind of anti-bow fishing, but I mean it helps the ecosystem if you think about all the carp and buffalo and other fish that are sucking up all those bass eggs and everything else. People neglect to figure out that kind of stuff, that we're removing those invasive fish from the water, even some native fish like gar and buffalo from the water. But I don't, again, I see it as a great all-around challenge and great all-around for the environment.
Right. And most people, you're right, most people do not look at it as we're removing the fish that don't have any predators.
Right.
Once they hit 2 pounds, there's not a predator in the water. So what are they going to do except just feed?
Yes.
And buffalo and gar do not care what they feed on.
Right. Bass or whatever.
And everybody says, well, buffalo's a trash fish and it just eats plankton. No, sir. No. We have shot buffalo in the midst of shad, and we bring them in the boat, and they're spitting minnows out of their mouth where we upset, but they were in there literally feeding on the minnows.
So there's for the naysayers, right, Marty? The ones that are saying, well, all they eat is plankton and stuff. Well, they're spitting minnows. I'm pretty sure they're eating minnows, and that's what's coming out of their mouth.
Absolutely, absolutely. My best story is one that came out of Granbury. We're up in Granbury and we're shooting, and this guy shoots this humongous buffalo, and it takes us forever because it goes out into the deep water. So we're floating around in the deep water while he's fighting, and he gets it up, and he said, "Man, I need a break." So we get it on the boat, we put it away, he sits down, and he's like, "There's a crab on here." And every one of the guys on the boat says, "We're in fresh water, there are no crabs." We turn around, and there was a little hermit looking crab that was running around our deck that buffalo had spit out.
I love it.
And we're going, wait a minute, where'd this thing come from? Well, the only place it could have came from is from inside that big old buffalo we got. Right.
It didn't just hop in the boat, in other words. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I have not been in any salt water.
Right.
So.
Well, that's interesting. And then the other thing I was going to bring up that I like about bow fishing is the fish get huge. I mean, whether you catch them rod and reel, and that's the thing. I just did a video I just released on YouTube for our June edition of the magazine about rod and reel fishing for carp. Because as you know, I was a carp angler before I met you.
Yeah,
and it's a fight with some fishermen that say that a striped bass is a harder fighter than a carp, and I disagree. I think the carp is the hardest fighting freshwater fish on the earth. Especially in America.
I've heard that more than once.
But because, they will fight you like they owe you money. Or like you owe them money. And I mean, they don't play. They play the game to win. And I mean, I've written about that and I've podcasted about that and everything else. But I mean, I really believe when you stick one with an arrow, they don't fight quite as bad. But when they take off with that thing, the heat is on. I mean, you've got to just stay up and reel that thing. They'll try to jerk the bow out of your hands.
Absolutely, and it depends on where you get them.
Right,
too.
right, for sure. That's where I was going with that. And if you shoot them right in the head or right in the face, like Tim Jackson says, then they don't do much. But I mean, it's still, because it's such a challenge. You're shooting instinctively. You're shooting without sights in most cases, or lasers or anything like that on your bow. You've got to get good. And what it's helped me do as an archer is be a better recurve shooter and a better longbow shooter. Because you're aiming low, and because the archer's paradox of your eyes.
Absolutely.
So I mean, bow fishing has got so many different benefits to it, and the thing that I find the most is that people kind of poo-poo it as oh, you're killing all the fish and everything like that. But I mean, has it ever really impacted the environmental factors really negatively in the area? I mean, I don't think anybody can prove that.
I don't think so. I believe it has impacted it professionally and positively.
Right, exactly.
Because and I know it's time passed, but when I first started fishing Belton and Steelhouse, the bass were not huge, but they are pulling out some really sweet stringers of bass now out of both Belton and Steelhouse. Whether we had anything to do with it or not, I don't know.
Because you've taken a lot of fish off of both of those lakes. I mean, a lot. I'm talking lots of
absolutely.
Fish. I mean,
but at the same time, you catch that daggum lake when it's spawning, you have never seen so many fish.
That's my other point. That's where I was going with that next, because there's just an amazing amount of, and they have no predators like you were saying, after 2 pounds. I mean, what else are they going to do? Look at Lake Austin. You and I have fished Lake Austin before. They wanted nothing but grass carp. Now, I've written about this before, but they wanted nothing but grass carp because they were supposed to be sterile and triploid and all that other stuff, and they were going to be eating all the grass and everything. Well, there's no vegetation left in that lake. They're stripping off the leaves of the dang trees,
The trees are falling in the lake because of the waves not having any breakers between them and hitting the bank.
Underwater vegetation, in other words. Okay, breakers like that. Okay, I see what you're saying.
No underwater vegetation, no breaker, and it's wiping out the banks of that lake.
I mean, you talk about environmental impact. There's things that people think that are good to do for the environment to make that a better bass lake, and it's not that good of a bass lake anymore. You can ask any bass fishermen about that.
Oh yeah, I've had several bass fishermen tell me that it has dropped. When they loaded it up with all the grass carp, it was one of the top lakes, and bam. Same with Conroe.
Right.
Conroe has no vegetation whatsoever. And from what I'm hearing, they've got some torpedoes in there running around, grass carp that are 6 and 7 foot long.
Torpedoes. I can just see a fish, going through the water like a torpedo. Wow.
Oh, and that's what they look like. I mean, they're humongous.
Oh my gosh! And you can't shoot, but you can't shoot grass carp at all in that lake. Is that right, or what's the rule?
Yeah, Conroe, you cannot shoot grass carp at all.
But you could shoot other. I hate to say the word trash fish, but we fished a tournament there not too long ago, and it was the only other fish we saw happened to be a lake record common, because we put it in a boat and it was a lake record. But that was the only other fish we saw besides grass carp. So
for a whole 12-hour tournament.
Golly, they've kind of taken over. Wow.
And now the catfish are humongous because the other fish have nowhere to hide.
Right. They eat up,
it is a fantastic catfishing lake.
Yeah, it is.
And they're all big catfish. I mean, you can get little ones too, but there are some huge catfish coming out of that lake.
Well, as you know, the Bassmaster Classic was held there in 2017, and then the show was held in Houston. The expo and everything was held in Houston for Bassmaster. But now Major League Fishing, the newer Big Bass League is doing fishing trips now. And Conroe was on one of the lakes I was on back in February while they were there filming, and that was kind of cool to watch. the guys catch bass out of that lake and do their thing with MLF, and it was just kind of cool to see all the cameras and all the chase boats and all this other stuff that was going on. But at the same time, I'm like, you really have to grind out to get quality fish because of the grass carp. I mean, that lake used to be. So anyway, that's just my point. Is that I mean, too much of a good thing or too much of a bad thing, I guess, is too much of anything. I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to say.
You can overdo anything.
You can overdo anything. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because, and I would think, just me, and I'm not speaking for Texas Fish and Game here, but I would think if you would legalize grass carp to be shot, there would be some huge grass carp coming out of that lake. I mean, humongous.
Absolutely. I think what they need to do in these bigger bodies of water, they need to just put a whole bunch in, and within 6 months, allow us to start bow fishing.
Yeah.
Allow them to start pulling them out.
Right.
That way, they will give the fish the opportunity to do what they were supposed to do, but not overdo. And there's no way we can get rid of every one of them.
No.
But we can start thinning the herd.
Right. Right, and at least keep the numbers manageable, and that's more of a conservation / wildlife and fisheries management thinking there, which is really good.
Right. Well, I've shot them out of Lake Austin, where it opened up last September to us.
Yeah.
And I shot some out of there that them suckers were starving to death. They had nothing. They had nothing to eat.
I fish with you there too.
And that's what you're talking about. They're eating the leaves off the trees. Conroe, you can drive a lawnmower down by the lake and watch the lake erupt because all the grass carp are sitting there waiting for a free meal.
Sucking down all that grass. Yeah, those grass clippings.
Please throw it in here. Please cut it this way.
Throw me some cuttings, please. That's hilarious. Yeah. But it's true, though. I mean, like I said, once they eat and everything, I mean, there's not much more that they eat besides the vegetation. And it does affect the environment. So my whole point is, from a conservation standpoint now I'm talking, it's just about thinking smart, not hard, because it does have an effect, and we've seen 2 lakes in Texas that have that common thread as far as the fish kind of taking over the world. And it was September 2017, I believe, is when they legalized it on Lake Austin.
Okay. Was it 17?
17,
okay.
Yeah. So that's been a year and a half now almost. So
right.
And
I've been going down to I've been fishing down there quite a bit, and they've slowed down a little bit, but some nights they're everywhere. You know.
Right. Yeah. So there's ample target-rich environment. And the other thing I was going to ask you about is tilapia. One thing that Texas used to be really good with was power plant lakes with tilapia. And with Obama's administration, they were shutting down the coal-burning power plants, which were what our power plants. A lot of our power plants were in Texas, correct?
Absolutely. That's just about the first one I knew about that shut down, and it shut down several years ago, was Trading House.
Right, Trading House Lake, yep.
Trading House outside of Waco used to be the premium tilapia lake. And then we started going to Fairfield and Gibbons Creek, and both of them are closed down now. And Fairfield was the last one to close, and it doesn't have any tilapia in it. Gibbons, same thing. It closed down, and as soon as we had a December rolled around and got cold enough, it killed them all off.
Wow.
Now, the only place now available for any kind of tilapia is Calaveras and Browning, but they're down in San Antonio.
And pretty crowded lakes, too, right?
They're power plant lakes, but they have a whole lot of other recreational stuff.
That's what I'm saying. They're pretty crowded. That's what I meant to say.
They're very crowded.
Because you and I have fished Cali during the daytime, and even like during a spring break week. This is back in 2012. We did that bow fishing marathon. You still remember that?
Right. Oh, heck yeah, I remember.
24 hours of bow fishing. It was crazy. I'll never forget that. But it was cool. But it's just like, and then you people leave their junk on the shores and everything. everything, and they throw up the Plecostomus because they're overtaking the lake, and they just rot on the bank, and it's just there are a lot of unsavory things about fishing. But at the same time, I mean, that's just part of what you have to deal with is cast netters and wind, which are your major things for tilapia.
Correct. Correct.
But I wrote about that in a couple of articles. Hunting the Water Ghost was the title of one of my articles about tilapia fishing. But it's just one of those things where I kind of miss that these power plant lakes are going, but they thrive in that warmer water, and that's why power plant lakes were so successful. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
So even though they're an invasive species and you have to remove the intestines and all that other stuff, it's been that way since I can remember as a kid with tilapia. Still a great tasting fish and still a lot of fun to shoot because they are so wary and so smart and have such good eyesight and clear water to see if you're going to pull back and shoot at them. I mean, they're really smart fish.
Yeah, it's kind of like hunting turkey.
Yeah, that's what I equate it to as well. In fact, you're the one that taught me that.
They're paying attention inside and outside of the water. It's not like everything else, all the other fish are mainly worried about what's in the water. It's going to eat them. They pay attention outside the water too.
Yeah, that's smart for fisher birds or bow fishermen or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of predators because they're smaller fish. But I'm looking back at some of the photos that I had on my other screen right now on my computer. I've got dual screens here, and I've got the first Fairfield trip was the one that was recording. You talk about a mess of fish, man. I mean, I don't know how many tilapia were there, but good night. You remember that photo? I've got it up on your website.
Man, I've been at Fairfield so many times, and sometimes you'd think it was empty of fish, and then other times you can't even reel your reel in fast enough.
Yeah, because they're just everywhere. Yeah, that's a good point. But it's just kind of a passing of an era, I guess. With some of the tilapia going. But I mean, there still are lakes that have them. I mean, Cali and Brawning are very, very centrally located at San Antonio and very popular lakes. But I mean, those plants are still going or no? Do you know?
As far as I know, they are.
Okay, cool. I was just curious.
But I'm not even sure about that because they did it. Every one of them had a deadline.
Yeah, no, I remember that. So it's just one of those things. Obviously, one of your things is Trophy Gar with Choke Canyon and some of the South Texas lakes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's just it's a 6-hour trip. We go out and we look for alligator gar. This year we've already taken 14 or so, and they're not. A lot of them are not what I consider trophies, but as long as the guys that are with me are consider them trophies, that's
take care of your clients.
And they've been, I think the smallest one was almost 5 foot.
Oh, wow.
And the largest one was almost 7 foot. So it's that range in there. I went down fishing by myself with a buddy, and we weren't going to shoot anything above unless we had something more than 7 foot.
Right.
So, it was, and we saw several that day. We saw 5 or 6 that day, and 2 of them were easy 6 foot. But it's just, it's clear water, so you can actually see what you're shooting at. We had that big issue with the Trinity River getting shut down to bow fishermen. Pretty much. It's not shut down, but you can't shoot anything more than 4 foot. So, why go there?
At all during the day or night, right?
Correct. Yeah. We're not going to drive 2 hours to shoot a 4 foot fish.
Right.
And the Trinity's a hard shooter anyways. It's because it's a muddy water.
Yeah.
You don't see the fish until it breaks the surface. So it's a hard shooting body of water.
So
anyway,
this new rule affects the Trinity River and Lake Livingston, or just the Trinity River north or south of Lake Livingston, or what?
I don't think they've written it up totally.
Okay, but it's coming to effect in September either way, right?
Right. But it's 4 foot fish, alligator gar, 4 foot alligator gar. So they closed it down and just reopened it, but they closed it down from 287 to 7. So you could still fish below 7.
Okay. I just curious.
And that runs into 19, Highway 19, and then Lake Livingston.
Okay.
So
So
could
north.
still fish that part. I don't know where the boundaries are going to be for this.
Okay, I was just curious.
Hopefully, it'll be above 7 or 21, Highway 21, somewhere around there.
Well, I bring that up because it's something that affects, the bow fishing public really came up in arms, but it was almost too late to do anything about, changing anybody's mind about the law on the official side. But it was definitely something that united a lot of people in the bow fishing community. Would you agree?
Absolutely. But it was a done deal before we went to the meeting. It was just a
formality, kind of.
The meeting was a formality. It was, and to make it, there was no rhyme or reason for this.
Right.
Because anybody that knows bow fishing and knows rod and reel fishing, that rod and reel fishing is going to catch a whole lot more alligator gar than the bow fishermen. I had guys come down here 5 years in a row before they got their first fish.
Wow.
And they were, you see them, but you just don't get shots, or you're not fast enough to get a shot, or when you see it, you give that 3-second, oh shit look, and the fish is gone, you know?
Yeah.
But there's just, there was no rhyme or reason, because the one fish a day, one alligator gar per day, per person is a legit rule. But to put it off limits to us, I didn't think that was very legit.
Yeah, I understand. And like I say, a lot of guys that got up in arms, but it was almost like Lone Star Bow Association sent out something to its members, and of course I'm an officer over there. And a couple of the other bow fishing groups, I know the Bow Fishing Association of America, or the Bow Fishers of America, I forget what that group is, or the part.
Yeah, BAA.
BAA, yeah. Did a lot of activism on that too, but seemed like it was a little too late, but the thing that I worry about with the laws like that is the fact that where does it draw the line? What other lake's going to be next? And a lot of other people said the same thing.
Absolutely, and that's if they can say that it's working in one lake, it'll be a whole lot easier to pass it in another lake.
Sure.
Body of water.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I understand their point though, in a way, as far as a trophy 7-foot gar is what, 30 years old on average, something like that. It's pretty old, right?
Right. Yes.
And that those fish don't just come everywhere, but at the same time, a lot of us, me and you included, for big trophy gar like that, preserve that as a trophy and sometimes use the meat.
Right, absolutely.
Cut out the big old backstrap steaks out of it and grill it or fry it or whatever. There's a lot of different, minds that now some people I know just discard them, and that's not, that's a whole another topic. But at the same time, there's enough responsible people that fish with a bow that I think have the best mindset of conservation in heart. And you've shot a bunch of trophy alligator gar, so that's why I bring you on the show, because Yeah,
well, and I'm not gonna allow anybody to shoot more than one, and I'm not gonna allow anybody to shoot. If you get your one, you're done.
You're done. You're finished. Sit in the back of the boat.
We can still fish, and you can still shoot carp, gar, regular gar, and stuff like that.
Right,
but
right.
And I had some guys out, and they seen about a 4.5 footer, but we had seen several that day, and I said, "Well, it's your call.
Yeah,
you can only shoot. You can only shoot one a day, so it's your call."
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I shot. I'll never forget, in the back of your boat one time. I was kind of riding in the back and letting the new guys fish up front, and I shot at probably, I guess, about a 3-foot gar. Wasn't very long nose gar. Out of their boat with a Hail Mary shot. And it was one of those things where I didn't think the shot was going to make it, and I hit that gar, and he jumped like 3 feet up in the air. I laughed so hard.
They like to tail walk.
Yes, got it, man. So, just a lot of memories to be made bow fishing. And my son is getting to be almost 10 years old. He's pulling a bow back now, and I'm pretty sure he can pull back one of your Matthews Genesis or your Genesis kids bows.
Right.
The thing is, he's right-handed, but he's shooting with his left eye, so I'm still working through that. But,
Right.
Anyway,
he's at that age, man. I remember that. I remember that kid was a baby.
Yeah, I know. I do remember. That's you and I knew each other. He was 2 years old when you and I met each other for the first time. So
wow.
But that kid's almost 10. But Riley, your granddaughter. I mean, goodness. I mean, I've seen her grow up and just be an incredible young lady. So.
Yep, and she's an incredible shot. I got to work to keep up with her.
Yeah, that's right. Those kids sometimes can school us older guys, right?
That's it.
But, I mean, my whole point with that is it's a great way to get kids hooked on archery. I know you like to donate to Hill Country Bow Hunters and some other organizations and nonprofits and stuff just to spread the word around. And that's how I met you, Marty, was through a bow fishing trip that I won on a silent auction in 2011.
Yep. I remember
maybe it was
that.
2010, I think, is when I won it, and then I took the trip with you in the spring of 2011. But, man, I mean, it's just about spreading the sport and spreading our wings and flying out there and getting more people hooked on the outdoors, which is what I'm really big about on this podcast, of course. But, I mean, it's something that's meaningful, It's something that's good for the environment. It's something that teaches you archery and teaches you how to be good at instinctive archery. And there's just a lot of, my point was there are a lot of benefits. So,
absolutely, yeah. In fact, I've got in June 8th, I've got Women in the Outdoors.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too. That Women in the Outdoors is sponsored by what? Texas Parks and Wildlife, right?
No, I do. Becoming an Outdoor Woman is Texas Parks and Wildlife.
Okay, that's right.
This one is National Wildlife Turkey Foundation.
Okay, cool.
And it's a one-day affair up here outside of Temple.
Okay, cool. What lake or body of water is it going to be on?
It's on a ranch.
Oh, on a ranch. Okay, cool. So you're going to bring your...
it's got a big lake there, but we do the old tub shooting.
Yeah.
And I go through all the different bows, all the different arrows, and explain bow fishing to them. And
that's great.
Fish ID. We go through all the fish ID. And then they take turns shooting the target I have set up.
I mean, one of the things I love, the target in the water, the gar target looks so real, you think it was a real gar if you didn't know it was fake.
Oh, absolutely. I got people walking up to the tub all the time.
You can't shoot that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious. But the thing I honor you about, Marty, is the fact that you reach out to the youth and you reach out to the women and you're all inclusive and you're a great teacher. I mean, I learned everything I know about bow fishing from you originally. And, that's the thing I really appreciate about you is you're all about including all, people that aren't necessarily your typical bow fishermen,
Well, and that's my favorite audience, first timers.
Right.
And you get mama involved, you got the whole family involved.
Yeah, and it's a family tradition to go bow fishing with Marty.
Well, and there's been several ladies that I have had in class, and they come back with their whole family.
Right.
Yes.
That's solid, man. I mean, that's great. And I mean, the thing about that people don't realize about bow fishing is that it does bring people together, but it's a communal sport, but it also instills togetherness, I guess is the best way to say that, because it's such a intimate sport in a way that you're having fun, but you're close to each other is what I mean to say.
Correct. Everybody's there and they're talking about whatever, what happened today or the camping trip they're on or the camping trip they did before, the last bow fishing trip they took, months ago, or
right.
It's a great opportunity because you don't have to yell at each other. You just talk like we're talking right now.
Right.
You got music playing in the background, and everybody's clued in on what's going on.
Right, and smart about it and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, and there's so many opportunities out there to do stuff like that. But I mean, the thing I've always honored about doing it with you is just you always make it fun and you teach and even you miss sometimes, which you're not afraid to show
all
people.
The time.
And
I just don't put it on video.
Right. Exactly. And I've edited a lot of GoPro stuff for you over the years of stuff that you have missed and stuff you have hit. So you were saying, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's it.
What were you saying? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, you didn't interrupt me. I'm just thinking.
Okay. Thinking out loud. What's a typical night like as far as how many fish? I know it depends on the archer and the group and the archery proficiency of that group as far as reeling in fish, but how many carp, gar, buffalo is your average night these days?
Well, this whole weekend it was 12 or 18, I think was the most.
At night? At a night? Is that what you
Yeah,
mean? Okay.
well, they got in the boat.
Okay, cool.
Now, they probably, for the most part, they probably seen anywhere from 100 to 200 fish.
Oh my gosh! And I mean, you can shoot over 100 times in one night. I mean, you
Oh,
and I have done
absolutely.
it. I mean, as far as
Easy.
pulling your bow back and making a shot, yeah.
Absolutely.
Talk about target
And
rich.
they were pretty. The fishing was pretty steady this weekend. The last day, Monday night, was probably the slowest. We didn't see a whole lot of buffalo. We seen more gar, and I think it was because of they're trying to drain these lakes back to normal,
Right, right.
and I think they have so much water going out of the lake that it dropped. The water dropped at least 3 inches from the night before.
Oh wow.
So I mean, it's going down. It's going down quick, getting back into the banks because Temple Lake Park at Belton is underwater.
Oh wow! I didn't realize that. Goodness.
Oh yeah, it's been underwater for a while.
For a while now, yeah. You and I used to launch out of there too.
Yeah, well, and I haven't been able to launch there for I want to say a month.
What do you tie up to the playground? I mean,
Yeah, you go
beach
through
your
the
boat.
playground. You try not to hit a barbecue pit.
Right, exactly on the way out. Yeah, with your prop. Oh
That's
my
it.
gosh, that's funny.
But
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, you go ahead, buddy.
I just Ballora and back in the Fort Hood area where Cow House comes in, that was all up in the fields and flooded.
Goodness.
So I mean, it was some good good water this weekend.
Goodness. That's great. And obviously I've written about saltwater bow fishing, which I know you've not done a ton of, but I mean, you've got stingrays, you've got mullet, you've got a wide variety of different sheepshead, that kind of stuff that you can fish on Texas, Louisiana, both, right?
Correct. Yeah. Well, if I do any kind of saltwater, I go to Louisiana.
Right.
And it's not really salt; it's kind of brackish.
Like
I go
marsh, right.
reds and sheepheads.
Yeah, which reds are legal to shoot with a bow there, yeah.
Correct. And I even talked to their game wardens at times, and they said it hasn't done anything but help the fish.
Right.
They haven't seen any deterrent why to stop. And they're talking. You got rod and reel guys. They catch and release, but did the fish survive? You don't know. Yeah, it swam off, but that's all you know.
Yeah.
So, and we can shoot and bring them in the cooler. We shoot quite a few reds, quite a few sheepheads. The stingrays down there they're just little skates about 8 or 10 inches around.
Yeah, they're not real big. Yeah.
Oh, not at all. Now, I've been in North Carolina fishing big rays and Virginia, and that's where you get the good, nice rays, size of trash can lids.
Wow, and you can obviously punch out, make yourself some sea scallops from those rays, right?
Absolutely, and that's exactly what I do. Wrap them in bacon a little bit and put them on a grill.
So I don't think we were talking about this on this show, but I mean I've heard that if the circles that you get at the restaurant are perfectly round all the way around and they're not misshaped or misformed at all, they might be stingray and not sea scallops.
Yeah, I think they call them bay scallops.
Bay scallops. Okay, that's what I mean to say. Yeah, so I think that's kind of funny. And I'll never forget when I was growing up, my dad used to take me over to JP, his buddy, and one of his friends would be down at Choke Canyon commercial fishing for gar because there were so many of them, and the restaurants would buy the gar for the meat.
Absolutely, and it used to be a big thing.
People laugh at me when I talk about that, but it was true. I was there. I witnessed it. They would jug line for gar.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, we're talking trophy gar. And I mean, I know that was back in the day before these rules came along about the 1 gar per day limit and everything like that. But it was commercial fishing on Choke Canyon. I mean, and it was legal.
Right.
So, I mean, I couldn't get over the amount of fish they would catch was just absolutely astronomical. But even then, I mean, the population on Choke Canyon alone and other freshwater lakes that have alligator gar is still good. I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, well, they had a major kill-off.
Right.
They, catch. It wasn't a kill-off. They caught a bunch of them and had all the commercial guys come in to choke and catch hundreds of them. And now they're back up, and there's a lot of big ones in there.
Yeah, and that happens over time. Yeah. So I enjoy this stuff so much, and I just enjoy something that is inclusive of women and kids. That's something that's fun, something that's enjoyable, something that's a great pastime, and something you can do during the summer months. One reason why I wanted to have you on now is because a lot of this bow fishing stuff happens at night, unless you're bow fishing for tilapia during the day. I mean, a lot of times we go and it's still hot and humid, but you don't have the sun to deal with.
Correct. Yeah, it's it might be 100 degrees, but it's doable because
right.
You don't have the sun beating down.
It's a lot more manageable in that case. And I'm writing an article for the August issue on heat stroke, on surviving, not surviving heat stroke, but avoiding heat stroke and heat stress and heat problems. And that's another reason why I wanted to have you on, because it's bow fishing, something you can do until 2:00 in the morning from 8:00 at night. Most of your trips run like 8 to midnight, right?
Correct. That's most of my trips are 4 hours.
Right.
8 to midnight. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. So, I mean, there's just so much to talk about here, but I don't want to keep you for too much longer, Marty. How do people reach you?
The best way is to give me a call, 254-931-3474, or they can go on GARQUEST Bowfishing on Facebook, or Marty McIntyre on Facebook.
Okay, and Marty McIntyre with an I. And also, there's Tim Jackson, and there's some other guys you work with and that kind of stuff in other parts of Texas. And there's just a great network of people that are out there to help people that are just getting started. If you have any questions and stuff like that, as far as rigging your boat and that kind of stuff, there's a lot of forums, there's a lot of Facebook groups and stuff like that you can tune into to get those questions answered. Isn't that right?
Absolutely, yeah. There's everywhere you turn them, there's people talking about bow fishing.
Right. Because it's slowly growing.
Hey, that brings up another thing.
Sure.
We're having issues with people dumping fish by the boat ramps.
Okay.
That's something you have to do, is you have to keep the fish.
Right.
So if you don't have a place to
dispose
of them.
Am I saying that right?
That's something you need to plan before you go out bow fishing.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. Because when you're dropping them at the boat ramp and they're floating and coming right back up, that's not conducive to our sport.
Right. It's not reflecting well on bow fishermen.
No, it does not. And the biggest, heck, hogs love them.
Yeah.
You can use them for fish bait, fertilizer. There's a whole lot of uses for them other than dumping them right at the boat ramp.
You and I got you connected with that one guy, Lynn Barnett, the guy.
That, absolutely.
And he just wanted some fish for cut bait, and boy, did he get enough fish, he told me. So
yes, he did. And that's it. I have no problem giving away fish for cut bait.
Yeah, that's great.
That is a good option for them.
Well, and one of the podcasts I did recently on saltwater was guys catching redfish on the coastal the coastal what am I trying to say, shoreline surf with cut shad or cut carp or cut buffalo, because they're so oily.
Oh yeah, buffalo is fantastic.
Yeah,
for that. It'll leave out a oil slick for days.
Right. That'll attract your shark or your redfish or whatever in, and it's great for your catfish or your any kind of saltwater fish like that that's going to eat cut bait, because you've got an opportunity to go on a bow fishing trip or call Marty and get bow fishing fish to cut up. And it's kind of a pain as big as these things get to clean sometimes, but they make a lot of cut bait, as far as
they're good eating too. If you like fish, the thing I don't care for them is they're oily.
Right.
But they fry up very good. They are tasty. but they are also oily fish.
Right.
You know,
right.
when I was eating them, all I was thinking about is I didn't have to have fish oil.
Yeah.
You know, fish oil tablets.
Yeah, I take fish oil for my heart. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't need them right now.
You got plenty of fish oil there.
Greasy fish, yeah.
That's funny. Who needs salmon when you can eat carp and buffalo, right? So
there you go. Yeah.
But you know, that's the other thing I was going to say. Gar, you know, a lot of people that listen to the show may not really believe it, but you've seen me clean like 3-foot gar just because I like the meat that much.
Absolutely, and it's tasty also, fried. But you know, as long as you eat it while it's still warm.
Right.
You know, the best time I had it was we boiled it in crab boil.
Right, I've done it that way too. Yep.
And it turned out fantastic.
Like lobster kind of, right?
We were calling it poor man lobster.
Poor man lobster. Yeah, that's funny. And you say that, you mentioned that too. I thought it was funny when the last Crosswater Outfitters event that I did back in Lake Belton back in April. I brought because my wife does not like gar. She doesn't like the texture of it. It's too chewy. And so I brought all of my gar that I'd been saving for the last 3 years to that fish fry. And they did a whole basket full of gar that I cut up and everything and had it all nice little, you know, cut all the silver skin and everything out. And they were just blown away at how well it went. There was no gar left at the end of the night. And I brought everything I had.
That happened that last time I was there when you cleaned out 2 or 3 of them.
2 or 3 of them, yep.
Just to even out the fish.
Yeah, and it was just something, you know, we fry them last, you know, and we're smart about it, but it's one of those things where it's just like, wow, I didn't think I'd like that, but I really did, you know, and once you try it, you're like, yeah, I could eat that. It's more like pork. It's a kind of a denser, chewier meat, but it's clean, and they eat pretty clean too. Gar do, kind of like crappie do. They eat live fish, you know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's the thing. Everybody says crappies the best freshwater meat that there is and everything like that. And I'm like, man, you know, if you just get something that eats clean, you know, well, look how much catfish we eat. You know, they don't eat clean, you know, so.
Well, but yeah, if you divide it and people classify the catfish all in one group and, you know, the catfish have different diets depending on what kind of catfish.
That's true. I didn't think that through before I said it. So blue cats versus yellow cats versus channel cats. Yeah, I know what you mean.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, so yellow cats obviously eat live stuff. But anyway, either way, I'm just saying, you know, a gar eats clean and the meat is usually pretty good. So as long as it's not too mushy. So
absolutely.
That's really good. But well, thank you so much for joining me, Marty. Is there anything else you want to say in closing?
No, that's good. I had a good talk. Enjoyed talking to you every time. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks a lot. And GARQuest.com is your website, one of the websites I built.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yes, that's how Marty and I work together as well. And I all the videos and stuff for the most part on that page, GARQuest.com, are creations of mine that I started editing video when I met you. I had to learn how to edit all your videos, so I taught myself how to edit video because of you, buddy. So,
that's it.
That's right. All right, thanks so much for joining us, Marty. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one.
And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Marty McIntyre. Incredible guy. Just love this dude. If you're new to this podcast, please subscribe. Please give us a 5-star rating if you hear what you hear. I just can't thank you enough. I know a lot of new bow fishermen, or not new bow fishermen, but new podcast listeners are going to be listening because it's a bow fishing episode that we're going to share on social media. So if you've not done so already, sign up for our newsletter. You get 3 a week. The Tactical and Practical Tuesday, Wildlife Wednesday, and the Thursday Texas State of the Outdoor Nation, as well as a lot of our special email blasts and stuff like that with special offers from some of our sponsors and special deals that they have going on. And then you also get this podcast at fishgame.com/podcast. You can listen to all of our podcasts. We've been at this for 4 years. I'm part of the Texas Outdoor Nation with Texas Fishing Game for 3 years. And it's just been a wild ride. It's been great. I love you guys for listening. I love each and every one of you. Like I said in the last show, this is kind of an intimate setting. because I'm literally in your ears, I'm literally in your head, when you're listening to with earbuds off your phone, or if you're at the gym working out, or if you're at the car, I'm in your speakers, whatever the case may be. But it's an honor for me to do this show. It's busy for me. It's so crazy busy right now, but I try to get a new show out every 2 weeks still, because this is my creative outlet. This is one of the ways I commune with creativity. And edit and create content is just one of the things that I love to do. So, I just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart again for watching, reading, and listening. Thank you so much for telling a friend. Thank you so much for subscribing to our newsletters. Thank you so much for spreading the outdoor gospel out there about the lifestyle of the outdoors, about communing with God, about anything that you're into, communing with nature. Just sitting out in the woods sometimes and waiting for that hog to come to that feeder and getting that rush. I got that the other day when I was hog hunting, man, and I just remembered why I love hunting so much and why I love fishing so much, because there's always the unknown out there. It's an adrenaline rush. And when you're hunting fish like you do in bow fishing, it's another thing. And once you see that 50-pound, grass carp, your heart just jumps, and you just make that shot and do the best you can with it. I mean, there's just so many great things in the outdoors to experience, guys, and I just encourage you to get out there with your family. Take a kid fishing, take a family member hunting. Over here at the Warncke house, I had my son shooting my crossbow the other day, and my father-in-law was over here, and I was showing him how well he was doing. Well, he got out there and shot a crossbow for his first time, and he said, "My goodness, this is incredible." And I finally think I've got him hooked on what I do, besides just the hunting and fishing stuff that I do, as far as why I do it and why I love crossbows so much, and air guns, and bow fishing, and all the kind of fringe things that not everybody thinks about as main outdoor sports, because they're different and because they're unique, and they're great ways to spend time in the outdoors. So that's just my kind of soapbox for today. So just a reminder, you guys all rock. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Thanks for telling a friend. Thank you so much for spreading the Outdoor Nation word to your brother, to your sister, to your mother, whatever the case may be. I really appreciate you guys all. Thank you so much for watching, reading, and listening. Have an awesome day in the outdoors. We'll see you next time.